The second person to join me is a person that I know and care about very greatly. She basically has been a great friend for many, many years, and Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. She, when I first met her, was WTO negotiator. She is a tough negotiator, but she also knows how to make things happen. As merely the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, she was responsible for Prime Minister Modi's programs to really drive through Startup India and manufacture in India. She has an ability to instill confidence. She has an ability to bring people together, and now is one of the 5 top women defense ministers around the world. Madam Minister, if you'll please come and join us as well. The next individual is the person that we talked about earlier, and I want to tell you a little bit more human side about Ms. Ivanka Trump. When I talked to her on the phone about this panel, she literally was teaching me what was possible, how to make changes. She's not only a world-renowned business leader, she honestly cares so much about making a difference. She's a mother, she's a TV personality, she's a fashion designer, she's been successful in many of the challenges in her life. But this is an area that she leads by example in, not just in her words, but also in her actions. So Ms. Trump, would you please join us? And finally, representing the Africa, Middle East area is an individual I did not know before tonight, but I honestly feel like I've now known her for a very long time. She is a leader, the first black leader of an aviation company, a petroleum company in South Africa. As a young lady, she had the imagination of wanting to do this. She had no fear in achieving goals that others would hesitate about and not be able to perhaps achieve. And yet when she had the chance, she turned it completely around. Please join me in welcoming Sibeli G. Lee Salmobo. Please. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, John.
This will be fun.
Thank you.
I'm going to switch you right here if I could. Thank you. Please. Gotcha. So if I may start off with you, Ms. Trump. You watch what is occurring in the world. You have a passion for this. It'd be so easy with the economy in the U.S. going well, the tax reforms changing, etc., not to have the courage to make this change. Why is the administration doing this? Why is it so important to you personally? And let me also ask a double question. What advice would you have for the young women entrepreneurs in the audience in terms of kind of lessons learned? Because you've come through a male-dominated world and done remarkably well. What would be your thoughts on both topics?
Well, first of all, thank you. Thank you, John. Can you hear me? Hello? Better? Hello? Thank you, John, and thank you for all that you've done to inspire so many entrepreneurs, men, female alike, and for participating in... Hello?
Testing on the mic, please.
Hello? Thank you. And for participating in this dynamic panel. We appreciate it. I was so excited to come here to Hyderabad, this center of innovation, and to have the opportunity to meet with so many entrepreneurs from all over the world who are deeply inspired by their own individual mission. And that to me is one of the most incredible things. And ultimately, now in this role in government that I'm so privileged to have, that's my desire, to create an opportunity for more people to have the advantages that I've been so fortunate to have. I talked about the unique challenges that face female entrepreneurs, the lack of adequate access to capital, to networks, to mentorship, and in some countries to equitable laws. These are challenges we can solve for by talking about the problems, by working together, by combining the thought leadership of those in the private sector and here in this room today with smart government policy that enables all of our country's citizens to thrive. So I am incredibly optimistic 11 months into my time in the Trump administration. I see firsthand how we're creating a climate to fuel the growth of business, to reduce barriers to new entrepreneurs who are thinking about whether or not they're going to engage. So you asked earlier about my advice. You just have to do it. You just have to do it. I think too often there's a myth that everyone who started a business was 100% sure and had 100% belief that that business would succeed. It's not true. Many people started businesses on the side while continuing their primary job until they got the confidence that it was going to work. Many waited for several years. Many pivoted out of their existing business into another. Many failed to come back again. So to those aspiring entrepreneurs who are in this audience today and are wondering if you have what it takes, if you are deeply passionate about the company you want to start, if you're deeply passionate about your vision to create change and to create a product or service that will better the world, just go do it. Just go do it. No time like the present.
Mrs. Sitharaman, you have an amazing record in your country here in India of women being successful in politics, in business, and the arts. What is the magic here? If you look at your Security Council, 2 of the 4 of you are women. You look at many of your political leaders throughout the country and many of your business leaders, they are also women. Today at the T-Hub at IIT University, we saw 35 of the startups going on, over 40% of them are women. What is the takeaway for many of us in this audience about what India is doing different and the generation of female leaders that you all have been able to develop and continue to develop?
Well, I like to believe that that trait in the Indian women has always been there. For only in the last 60 years, because of the model of development that India had adopted, socialist. Thank you. Only in the last 60 years, because of the model of development that India had adopted, there wasn't much of a chance for India to support or facilitate women who naturally had the instinct. And when I say entrepreneurial, it is not just doing business, but also getting into education, getting into that which is going to be a social catalyst. That kind of a work which women were very good at doing. The Prime Minister in his speech referred to the cooperative movement, which has been largely women-driven. So if you look at it, even while writing the Constitution of India, there were 15 women, and some of them coming from very, very deprived, socially denied sections. I'll take the name of one particular lady who's been a part of these 15 women, Dakshayani Velayutham. Came from a Dalit, the word Dalit is now global, you'll know about it. Came from a Dalit community, but rose to become a part of this large team of people who gave India its constitution. So it is possible. Only now the focus is very clearly to bring all women on board, whether they're going to be scientists. In fact, the Mars mission, the rocket which India launches, is dominated by a woman scientist, Tessie Thomas.
Yes.
So it is possible in India, but of course, because education access has not been very widely available, a lot of emphasis by the government is now being given to send all girls to school, give them the necessary facilities, ensure that they go into higher studies, and so on. The momentum which is being given by Prime Minister Modi for small loans to be given for women, because in India, I can say this from my own experience, when you want to start a business as a woman, and if you approach a bank, the first thing that you have to provide is security for the loan that you're taking. And because women belong to a part of a family, in the sense either the father has to support, or if they're married, the husband has to support, on their own, many of them did not even keep some property. So it became the first necessary thing for a woman, and today, by law, and particularly the Mudra scheme which the Prime Minister has launched, it has said, in fact, the Prime Minister, in one of his speeches said, I am the guarantor for every woman who wants that loan without a guarantee. So, out of that thinking, has helped to empower women, but we have a long way to go.
But it's very possible.
It is.
And achievable.
Achievable.
And it's not a dream.
Not at all.
We can do it together.
Yes, but of course effort is needed by everybody.
Agreed. Ms. Sandlin, you had a vision watching planes fly over when you were a young person about someday being in aviation. You had the courage to, when the Empowerment Acts occurred in South Africa, to go for it. You are the first 100% owned female entrepreneurship in aviation. In my notes said in South Africa, I'm not sure, but what in the world. What are some of the lessons learned? Was it what you thought being a female going into a male-dominated world? How did you adjust your leadership style, or did you, in terms of what was expected? And how could you teach many of us in the audience, not just the females, but us males that need to learn as well, what it was like for you in making these changes?
Thank you, John, and good afternoon, everybody. For me, starting an aviation company started with a passion. I'm a human resources practitioner by profession, and one day I decided that, I want to follow my dreams. I want to find what lies within me and pursue that. So I decided that I am going to leave the corporate world, start my own aviation company and thrive. Little did I know that everything comes with a package, that it is not smooth sailing to be an entrepreneur. However, it is possible when you persevere and you have a vision and you look at the end of the road at what you want to achieve. There's been so many hurdles in getting and thriving in aviation industry. One of them is access to finance. You might be sitting there and asking yourself, who funded this young lady to own a private jet company and helicopters in South Africa, in the African continent? It was during December time when I got my first order from government to do my flight from Johannesburg to Bujumbura. I had no finance at all, and I ran to finance institutions to go and ask for finance. But many doors closed because they said, one, aviation is a risky industry, and secondly, I didn't have collateral at all, to service the debt that I was looking for. But I didn't say, I'm not getting any help at the moment. I just decided to find alternatives. I called my mother, who had retired in South Africa, but who was working as a nurse in London, and said, Mommy, I have resigned. But here's the good news. I've got an opportunity to thrive as an entrepreneur. How can you help me? She had to leave London, where she was working as a nurse, to come and give me her pension money so that I start this business. And she also, thank you. And she also talked to her sister, who had also retired, to borrow me her funds so that I could start this aviation business. My advice to the new and aspiring entrepreneurs is that when you are determined, and when you have a vision, and when you have a plan, don't let it die because of the challenges that you meet. Instead, find alternative solutions, because there is always a solution. Sometimes it might take longer than planned, but at the end of the day, when you persevere, you will be able to thrive and win. Thank you.
Thank you. You're amazing, young lady. I'm very proud of you and your courage. Marcus, Scandinavia, the Nordic countries have often led in the gender diversity. You're on 9 different boards. You led one board as chairman that you had a female CEO for 12 years. What causes the Nordics to be so progressive? What are some of the lessons learned? And a little bit your thoughts about mentoring top women entrepreneurs and how you go about it.
Well, as you said, I come from a different part of the world where the diversity question has been very much upfront for a long, long time. Yes. For many reasons. I mean, it's an egalitarian society at heart, but I would also say that it also comes from the need for our population to be participating in the work life. And we all know that the wealth of a nation and the standard of living is actually very much dependent how big a percentage of the population that actually has the possibility to work. So this has been, for many reasons, a very important question for Sweden to have women participating in life of business. On top of that, there have been actually in the last few years a tremendous push for entrepreneurship in our part of the world. I'm happy to say that a lot of those who are doing that today are women. And I would say that I participate in several mentor programs, and for those of us who have been running corporations, we know how tough it is to be running something. You're pretty much alone. You maybe don't have a board. You really need somebody to talk to completely openly, and even if you have a board. And it doesn't matter really if you're a woman or a man from that perspective, but I think it's very, very important that you support the mentor thought for everybody who's doing entrepreneurship. On top of that, of course, we all know that in many cases it's a bigger job, a bigger sacrifice for a woman to start up when, coming from often having a family responsibility at the same time. So in the case of women entrepreneurs, it's very often, at least my experience from where I come from, even more important to have a mentorship and to really support that. So in fact, I'm going tomorrow to Helsinki with a group of entrepreneurs, where the sole purpose is to bring them together with their mentors to see another of these great things we're seeing today, which is a tech entrepreneurship in Finland. And I would say that you have to remember, I'm just thinking about your discussion about the difficulty to find risk capital. This is typically a thing that a mentor can help you with. To support, open up the doors, give them support, having the experience, and then really making it work.
Agreed. I'll come back to a couple of those questions if we have time as well. Ms. Trump, when you look at the future of the U.S. and the world, technology, every company is going to become a technology company, and it doesn't matter if you're in retail or fashions or in government. How important is it that our education system evolve, and how important is it that we really focus on our women entrepreneurs, really giving them the education in technology and STEM? And what do you think we need to do better, both as a country, our own country, and around the world in this area?
Thank you, John. Well, I think it's tremendously important. Historically, women have been greatly underrepresented in STEM fields, and you know that now technology is not confined to one sphere.
Yes.
Technology is disrupting every industry and reinventing every industry. So every industry is a technology industry. And I view computer science, digital literacy as really foundational to success across so many industries, especially when you look at the future of where work is headed. So as part of our commitment to ensuring skills training and ensuring we continue to have an incredible and competitive workforce, we've been very, very focused on prioritizing STEM education, starting in our schools K through 12, and with a particular focus on making sure that the programs are designed with gender and racial diversity in mind. So when you look at a field like computer science, for example, women represent 47% of the American workforce, yet make up only 21% of computer science professionals.
Yes.
So what's very concerning when you look at where the jobs of the future are going to be increasingly headed, and you look at the low representation of women in this very critical field, and this is true of all STEM fields, engineering, we represent 13% of engineers. So you look at the work of the future, if we continue not to take our fair share, if we continue to be underrepresented in these high growth areas and these lucrative fields of the future, I worry that the fourth industrial revolution will not only lead to us remaining stagnant in terms of closing this persistent gender wage gap, but I worry we'll actually start to make negative progress and lose a lot of the gains that we've made in recent decades. So I think it's critically important, and that's why President Trump rolled out just a few months ago a presidential memorandum that told the Department of Education to prioritize STEM education and committed $200 million, a minimum of $200 million annually towards that goal, and it could be much more in grant funding. So we're very focused on that, and then beyond K through 12, we're very focused on workforce development and worker retraining to ensure that every American, regardless of age, has an opportunity to participate in the economy and get the skills training they need if they're in an industry where their jobs have been displaced, or in an area of the country geographically where they've lost opportunity, that they have the opportunity to re-enter the workforce. So really the combination of K through 12, STEM and computer science focus, and then workforce development, apprenticeship models, which have been very, very successful in places across the world, notably Germany and Switzerland, are areas that we're very, very focused on as an administration. In addition to technical education, because as you know, coming from Cisco, the needs are not just of a four-year college graduate. So many of the great STEM jobs that are open and available today require no or minimum post-secondary education. So I think it's a tremendous opportunity in our country, and we're looking forward to filling those vacant jobs and making sure that the next generation has the skills that will enable them to succeed in the modern economy.
Completely agree. And what you're beginning to see is you have to not solve this with one or two variables. You have to do 7 or 8 things well at the same time. Madam Minister, before you were Defense Minister, you really implemented Prime Minister Modi's startup concepts and how you do a startup ecosystem, as well as how you do stand-up in terms of the women leadership. If the majority of the jobs in this country, but also around the world, are going to be generated entirely through startups, because the large companies, Marcus, you and I were talking, are not going to add jobs in total over this next decade. Some will increase, some will decrease. What were the lessons learned in both roles in terms of what the audience could learn about what we've done right in India, and what you think the challenges are to carry over this to it being a largely startup-generated gender equality as we move forward?
It's interesting that you raised this point. As soon as this new government under Prime Minister Modi was formed, the Prime Minister's emphasis was, we have to encourage the young entrepreneurs. And the Startup Action Plan, about which he referred in his speech too, was launched. And not just launched the action plan, but we kept our ear close to the ground. And as and when startups kept telling us that there had to be more and more changes, more tweaking to the action plan itself, we were ready for the changes. Normally governments do take some time to change, but given the nature with which, or the temperament with which Prime Minister Modi works, he wanted quick results, he wanted to move ahead and be responsive. So the action plan was kept actually real time. So we kept changing in response to the changes that came, because inherently we believe that governments can no longer generate jobs on their own as much as you want. It can still probably give some jobs, but it cannot generate as much as you would want, one. And second, people also, particularly in India, they're no longer looking up to the government for providing jobs. They thought they had the capacity, the skill sets, to start a business and provide more jobs for others in their neighborhood or among their acquaintances. So it was very clear that that spirit of entrepreneurship had to be kept up, and solutions which are going to be local, at the same time which could be scaled up, were all to be encouraged. It wasn't possible for Delhi or for the state headquarters to decide and give solutions for everything that the people need. So we had to be rapid in moving, and we thought it made sense, therefore, to have people coming up with solutions, and in the course also creating jobs, churning the economy, keeping it far more vibrant. So that was the justification, and in that I must appreciate again the guidance we received from the Prime Minister. When we went to Germany, we spoke with Angela Merkel's government, and I'm very glad that the Chancellor was ready for it. Yes. She said, I'll give global exposure opportunities for Indian startups to interact with startups in Germany, and therefore we could have an exchange program worked out. Similarly, when Prime Minister went to Israel, which you have very clearly recognized that a lot of startup business happens there, we made sure...
in the defense industry.
And in the defense industry. I would definitely come over to that because now I'm handling defense.
Yes.
So Israel too came up with a lot of opportunities for our startups to go see what is the environment in which they were doing it all, so that they could replicate or mutually benefit that they can have. Even as I talk now, we finalized December 4th as the date when I will be working with the Chambers of Commerce and the startups. A huge list has been made to ensure that I interact with them to see about women's participation and about how they can help in the defense ministry's production and procurement process. Because Indian startups have made and are continuing to make very big contribution for defense industry both in India and abroad. We want to make sure that we leverage that opportunity that we have, and on the 4th of December I am sitting with a lot of these industry leaders and the Chambers of Commerce to ensure that the startups are given equal playing field opportunities when tenders are given out by the government, asking for people to supply. Startups have a problem because till now the rules were such that unless they had existed in the field for more than a certain number of years, they couldn't even qualify. Unless they had a certain amount of turnover, they couldn't even qualify. We are removing all these kind of rules which restrict the startups. And therefore, I feel startups do have a very big opportunity in entering into defense industry, helping India to procure, and also probably export. So that's one thing. And the last thing about Prime Minister's approach again on stand-up. How is it different? How are women entrepreneurs going to be helped with it? India has more than 600 districts. And in each one of the districts, there is at least one commercial bank or scheduled bank available. Prime Minister's desire was to tell these banks that in every one of the districts, which is 600 or more now, at least one woman should be given money to start her business as a startup entrepreneur, so that innovation at district levels also are recognized, funded, and scaled up. So it is not going to be just a Bangalore, Hyderabad, phenomena. It is going to be across the board, everywhere in the country, in the districts. So there, the women business is happening. One of the last thing I would like to say, Indian startups, particularly women-related entrepreneurs, small and medium industries, again with women potential exporters, I had worked up a plan with the International Trade Council, which is a part of the World Bank, UN organization. The head currently is a lady called Aranza Gonzalez. She is doing a lot of work about bringing together all the women entrepreneurs who are in trading business, in the sense who would want to export globally. And her effort, I wanted to get over to India to make all Indian women entrepreneurs and exporters to come together to search for a global market. So there are provisions, there are platforms through which we can have greater women entrepreneurship being facilitated and promoted. We are at it, we will do it for India, and I'm sure South Africa's experience, United States experience, Swedish experience will all come of help.
What's fascinating is France has moved from the last nation in Europe you'd invest in and not even involved in startups with very little venture capital investment in 2 years to number one. And one of the most basic things they did, they stated as a national goal. They then opened up all of their government to startups and said it's okay for some of these to fail. And then they went to their large businesses and said, you must be a part of this transition. So I think it's lessons learned that we can all apply. One of the most important things, and I talk to probably 40 different startup sessions per month, is the lessons learned about not successes, which everybody wants to write about, but the challenges you faced and how you overcame them. I became a better leader because of a terrible time in 2001 when I went from being viewed as one of the best CEOs in the world to could I run my company during the dot-com bust. I probably developed more as a leader, and our company became a much stronger company because of our setbacks. If I could ask you to share with this audience and entrepreneurs how you overcame not just your successes, because everybody will write about those, but how did you handle the setbacks? And especially for the women entrepreneurs, you will never be a great leader until you get knocked down and you get back up. Could you share your experiences with the audience on that?
Yes, thank you, John. You know, challenges they come and challenges they go. It is how fast and how you react to those challenges that determines your success. When we started this aviation business, we didn't realize that aerospace and aviation is a highly regulated environment. I'm sure those who come from the USA know that the FAA is very strict, and our Civil Aviation Authority in South Africa conforms to IASA and also the FAA. So you can imagine that those regulations are very stringent. At some point in the company, we didn't manage to renew our licenses because the challenge was that you need to do at least one flight to exercise the rights of your licenses. And at that time, we didn't have enough access to airplanes, to infrastructure, to capital, and a whole lot of things that are required to run a successful aviation company. And I remember one day when one of the auditors from the Civil Aviation Authority came to our offices, just took our licenses from the wall and said, "You're no longer allowed to operate." You know, it was such a huge setback for us as a company because now we couldn't, you know, generate income. Now we couldn't, you know, see through our vision. But as a leader, I needed to communicate to the staff, you know, our vision. I needed to be strong and confident so that the employees could follow me. And I didn't just stop there. I managed to go back, find partnerships, which is very important. You cannot run an organization on your own and expect to run a successful business. You need partnerships. And in aviation, you need partnerships globally, not only in your country. So that's what we went back, we took stock of what was happening in the company and managed to get partnerships, revived our licenses, and managed to get back and operate. Now we are based at Lanseria International Airport, and I can assure you that we fly our customers safely all over the world. Thank you.
Thank you. I started off by saying this could be an historic moment. It could be another conference where we talk about gradual improvement, or it could be one where we recognize with all the changes going on around the world, from technology to leadership in common countries to the ability to make dreams come true, how much a difference we could make. As you leave tonight, I'd like for each of you to think what you can do to make a difference this next year. And I'm going to ask for each of the participants to share with the audience a call to action. Very often people don't care because nobody they admire asks them to care. Very often they don't do something because they think they cannot make a difference. Or third, if they do something, they won't see the results. And I'll commit to us that next year at GES, wherever it is in the world, we will share the results on the gender diversity equality that we've done. Marcus, what would be your call to action to the people in this room?
I guess I stick to my gun. So I'll say that if I should challenge the participants here with one thing for next year, is that I really believe that entrepreneurs do really benefit from the support of an individual a mentor, or somebody who's just helping out. So if I should ask for something from all of you here, is to make a goal to help one entrepreneur during the coming year to really support or make them grow.
Madam Minister, your thoughts, the challenge for the people in the room, your call to action.
Well, I think the push has to come from women themselves, irrespective of the field in which they are. But at the same time, for every male and female entrepreneur, there should be a conscious attempt to help one more. And that itself will get a lot of women out. I think women's skills are underestimated by women themselves. They should come out and knock at every opportunity, knock at every door. There are opportunities, and only a sensitive government will have to be responding to it. Today in India, the environment prevails. Globally too, we can see a lot of interest. So women should come forward, and that itself is a major big step.
Thank you. Mrs. Sambo, your thoughts. What would be the call to action for the people in this room that you would like to challenge them on?
Okay, thank you, John. I would like to challenge first my sisters from Africa. Can I ask all of you to stand? Let them see you. we didn't come all this way to waste time. We came here to network and to do business. You can see them, they are so colorful. So please find partners here. I want to challenge each and every one of you here that make a difference in your businesses, in your corporation, in your corporates, and make sure that you mentor every young girl and young boy. I'm a mother of 2 boys, so I will not encourage only mentoring girls, but also mentoring young boys, because those are our leaders as well. Thank you very much.
Ms. Trump, would you bring us home? Challenge the group, and don't hesitate to really push us, especially the men.
First of all, John, thank you. And I do want to say, not only have you moderated this panel beautifully, but you have inspired so many entrepreneurs, and we're grateful to have you here, and thank you for your tremendous contribution to the ecosystem of entrepreneurship in the United States and India and all over the world. In terms of my call to action, I'll echo what was just said about mentorship, because it's so critical and it's something that each of us can do. So our governments should help us lower barriers, create a climate that enables us to be competitive, regulatory relief, tax reform, all the things we discussed, access to capital. But each one of us can find in our communities, in our neighborhoods, another person who could benefit from our knowledge and who we could give knowledge to them, but they can also provide tremendous insight to us as well. One of the things I've really been impacted by wherever I go, whether it's throughout America or anywhere in the world, is the fact that most people will say that the guidance they got, the professional wisdom that somebody imparted upon them, was more valuable to them than even capital in the earliest days, because they avoided major pitfalls. And this is particularly challenging for women because there are less natural mentors. There's a smaller ecosystem of women, which is why the men in the room need to create opportunities for their female peers and create sponsorship opportunities, create networking and mentorship opportunities for them as well. So we can start to build that out and grow it. But mentorship really, I've come to believe, is so core. And I look at my own personal experience, and so much of what I was able to do was based on the advice and the feedback I got from the very intelligent people I would ask very basic questions of, and especially in the earliest days of my starting out in business and starting my own business. So that is something that I will ask each of you to do. I will try to do this as well, and we appreciate your being here. I'm deeply inspired by the number of countries represented, by the diversity we have here today, by the gender equality that is present in this room of innovators. And I look forward to a great summit. So thank you to our hosts.
Thank you very much. Last question. I want to see a show of hands. How many of you are in to make this change? Let's do it together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chambers, for the engaging session. Thank you all. We welcome you once again, ladies and gentlemen, to GES 2017. We wish you a fruitful, inspiring, and productive summit. Thank you.